The gunshots echoed through the dusty streets of Redemption Creek as Harmony Tucker clutched her two small children to her skirts, desperately trying to shield them from the harsh reality that had become their daily existence. It was 1874, and the frontier town in Wyoming Territory offered little mercy to a widow with children born before her hasty marriage to a man now 2 years in his grave. Bastard brats. The cruel taunt came from Elmer Pickens, the town's shopkeeper, as he spat tobacco juice dangerously close to 6-year-old Thomas's feet. "You and your brother ain't nothing but sin made flesh, boy." Harmony's face burned with shame and anger as she pulled Thomas and 4-year-old Samuel closer. "You'll not speak to my children that way, Mr. Pickens." "I'll speak how I please to whoever I please, Mrs. Tucker," Pickens sneered, emphasizing her married name with mockery. "Everyone knows you weren't Mrs. Anything when these two came along." The crowd gathering outside the general store grew, feeding on the spectacle of public humiliation. Harmony stood her ground, though her heart hammered against her ribs. These confrontations had grown more frequent since Jeremiah Tucker's death from pneumonia. Without a husband's protection, she and her boys had become easy targets for the town's cruelty. "Mama," Samuel's small voice quavered as he looked up at her with wide brown eyes. "Why is the mean man yelling?" Before Harmony could answer, the crowd parted like the Red Sea. A tall figure moved through the mass of people, spurs jingling with each purposeful step. The stranger cut an imposing silhouette against the setting sun, broad-shouldered and lean-hipped, with a weathered Stetson pulled low over his eyes. "Seems to me," the man drawled in a deep voice that carried across the suddenly silent street, "that a man who'd terrorize children ain't much of a man at all." Pickens's face flushed red. "This ain't your business, stranger. I'm making it my business." The man stepped fully into view, revealing a face with sharp angles softened only by the most unexpected pair of kind blue eyes Harmony had ever seen. A thin scar ran along his jawline, and several days' worth of stubble darkened his face. "Name's Owen Reed. Just rode in from Montana Territory." Harmony clutched her children tighter, uncertain whether this newcomer represented salvation or just another threat. "These fine folks giving you trouble, madam?" Owen asked, his gaze never leaving Pickens. "Nothing I can't handle," Harmony replied, though her voice betrayed her weariness. "Mama," Thomas whispered, tugging at her skirt. "He's got guns." Indeed, Owen Reed wore 2 Colt revolvers holstered at his hips, the leather worn in a way that suggested they weren't just for show. But it wasn't the weapons that commanded respect, it was the quiet confidence in his stance. "This woman's children are illegitimate," Pickens announced loudly, as if justifying his behavior. "Born in sin before she trapped poor Jeremiah Tucker into marriage," something dangerous flickered in Owen's eyes. "Where I come from, sir, a man doesn't discuss a lady's personal affairs in the street." His hand rested casually near one holster. "Nor does he insult children who have done nothing to deserve it." The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Harmony's breath caught in her throat as she watched the silent battle of wills unfold. Finally, Pickens backed down, muttering under his breath as he retreated into his store. The crowd began to disperse, their entertainment concluded for the day. Owen turned to Harmony, and up close, she could see the fine lines around his eyes that spoke of long days in the sun. "You and your boys all right, madam?" "We're fine, Mr. Reed. Thank you for your intervention, but it wasn't necessary." "Owen, please, and I disagree." He knelt down to eye level with Thomas and Samuel. "You boys taking good care of your mama?" Thomas nodded solemnly while Samuel hid behind Harmony's skirts. "That's good. Strong boys like you are important." Owen stood again, towering over Harmony's petite frame. "You folks live nearby?" Harmony hesitated, years of hard lessons making her cautious. "We have a small place just outside town. My husband left it to us when he passed." "I see." Owen's expression revealed nothing. "Well, Mrs. Tucker, Harmony Tucker, Mrs. Tucker, I'd be obliged if you'd point me toward a decent place to get a meal and maybe a room for the night." Harmony found herself nodding toward the opposite end of the street. "The Silver Dollar serves food. Mrs. Holloway runs the boarding house next door. Much obliged." Owen tipped his hat and turned to leave, then paused. "Those folks bother you often?" Harmony's silence was answer enough. "I see," he said again, his voice softer. "Good day to you, Mrs. Tucker, boys." With that, he strode away, leaving Harmony staring after him with a strange mixture of gratitude and unease. "Mama, is he a real cowboy?" Thomas asked, excitement replacing his earlier fear. "I believe he is," Harmony replied, watching Owen Reed's retreating form. "Come along now. We need to get home before dark." As they walked toward their wagon, Harmony couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just occurred, something that would alter the course of their lives forever. Little did she know how right she was. Harmony's small homestead sat nestled against a copse of cottonwood trees a mile outside Redemption Creek. The cabin itself was modest, 2 rooms with a lean-to kitchen, but the 20 acres of land surrounding it held promise. Jeremiah had always talked about expanding, building a proper ranch, but consumption had taken him before those dreams could materialize. After putting the boys to bed that night, Harmony sat at her kitchen table mending Thomas's trousers by lamplight. Her fingers worked automatically while her mind replayed the day's events. Owen Reed's timely intervention had spared her children further humiliation, but she knew it was only temporary relief. Tomorrow would bring new taunts, new struggles. The truth was painful but simple. Her boys had been born out of wedlock. She'd been young and foolish, seduced by Henry Blackwood, the handsome son of a wealthy rancher passing through on cattle business. He'd promised marriage, then disappeared when she told him she was with child. When Thomas was born, the scandal nearly destroyed her. Then Samuel came along 18 months later, the result of Henry's brief return and more empty promises. Jeremiah Tucker had been her salvation, a kind, older widower who'd offered her respectability through marriage. He'd been a good husband and treated her boys as his own during their brief union. His death had left her with land but few means to work it properly. A knock at the door startled her from her thoughts. Harmony grabbed the shotgun from beside the door before cautiously asking, "Who's there?" "Owen Reed, madam. Apologize for the late hour." Harmony hesitated, then unbolted the door, keeping the shotgun visible. Owen stood on her porch, his horse tethered nearby. In the moonlight, he looked even more imposing than he had in town. "Mr. Reed, what brings you here?" "Noticed your wagon wheel was wobbling when you left town. Thought I might take a look at it before you try to make another trip." He gestured to some tools he'd brought. "Won't take but a few minutes." Harmony frowned. "At this hour, truth be told, Mrs. Tucker, I overheard some unsavory talk at the saloon. Seems Mr. Pickens and his friends were planning to make things difficult for you in town tomorrow." Owen's expression darkened. "Thought I'd make sure you could at least get around safely if needed." Harmony's grip tightened on the shotgun. "I can take care of myself and my children, Mr. Reed. No doubt about that." His eyes flicked to the weapon in her hands. "But everyone needs help sometimes. I'll be quick about it and on my way." Something in his straightforward manner compelled her to nod. "Very well, I'll bring a lantern." She watched from the porch as Owen worked efficiently on the wheel, his strong hands making quick work of the repair. He was a mystery, this cowboy who'd appeared from nowhere and appointed himself their defender. "You planning to stay in Redemption Creek long?" she asked as he tightened the final bolt. "Hadn't decided." Owen wiped his hands on a rag. "Was heading to California, but I'm in no particular hurry." "What's in California? Fresh start maybe. Left a ranch job in Montana after some trouble." He straightened up. "Nothing criminal, mind you. Just a disagreement with the owner about how hands should be treated." Harmony nodded, understanding all too well about fresh starts. "Well, thank you for fixing the wheel." "My pleasure." Owen hesitated, then added, "Those boys of yours seem like fine young men." "They are." Harmony's voice softened with pride. "Despite everything they are, children shouldn't suffer for adult decisions." His voice carried an undercurrent of conviction that made Harmony look at him more closely. "No, they shouldn't," she agreed quietly. Owen mounted his horse with the fluid grace of a man who'd spent most of his life in the saddle. "Good night, Mrs. Tucker. I'll be around if you need anything." As he rode away, Harmony found herself wondering about this stranger who'd shown more kindness in one day than most townsfolk had in years. She didn't trust easily, couldn't afford to, but something about Owen Reed felt different. Little did she know that by the following week, the entire town would be buzzing with rumors about the cowboy who'd taken up residence at the old Miller place less than a mile from her homestead. Spring turned the Wyoming landscape into a patchwork of green and wildflowers as April melted into May. Harmony had grown accustomed to seeing Owen Reed around town, tipping his hat politely whenever their paths crossed. He'd taken work breaking horses for Judge Hollister's ranch and had quickly developed a reputation as a skilled horseman with a quiet way about him. What Harmony hadn't expected was the way her sons had taken to him. Thomas especially seemed to find excuses to talk about Mr. Reed at every opportunity. "Mama, Mr. Reed showed me how to make a proper lasso today," Thomas announced one afternoon as they walked home from church. "He says I'm a natural." "When did you see Mr. Reed?" Harmony asked, surprised. "He was at the general store when we were getting sugar yesterday. You were talking to Mrs. Peterson." Samuel piped up. "He gave us each a peppermint stick, Mama, but he said to ask you first if we could have them." Harmony frowned slightly. "You should have told me." "We tried, but you were busy," Thomas said reasonably. "And Mr. Reed said it's important to respect your mama, so we waited until you weren't talking to eat them." Despite herself, Harmony felt a smile tug at her lips. At least Owen Reed seemed to understand boundaries, unlike some of the men who had tried to curry favor with her since Jeremiah's death. Their conversation was interrupted by the approaching sound of hoofbeats. Speak of the devil, Owen Reed himself appeared around the bend in the road, riding his distinctive dun-colored gelding. He slowed as he approached them. "Mrs. Tucker, boys," he greeted them, touching the brim of his hat. "Fine day for a walk." "It is indeed, Mr. Reed," Harmony replied, noticing how both her sons straightened their postures in Owen's presence. "Mr. Reed," Thomas couldn't contain his excitement. "Did you break that wild Mustang for Judge Hollister yet?" Owen's face creased into a smile. "Sure did, Thomas. That stallion and I came to an understanding yesterday. He's going to make a fine horse." "Can I see him sometime?" Thomas asked, eyes wide with admiration. "Thomas," Harmony admonished, "don't impose on Mr. Reed." "It's no imposition," Owen assured her. "In fact, I was hoping to speak with you about something, Mrs. Tucker. If you have a moment." Curiosity piqued, Harmony nodded. "Boys, go ahead to that big oak and wait for me. Stay where I can see you." Once the children were out of earshot, Owen dismounted and walked beside her, leading his horse. "Mrs. Tucker, Harmony, if I may, I've noticed your fence line needs repair on the south side, and your roof could use some attention before the summer storms hit." Harmony stiffened. "I'm managing just fine, Mr. Reed." "I don't doubt that, but I also know how hard it is to run a place alone." His voice carried no judgment, only understanding. "I'd like to help if you'll let me, no strings attached." "Why?" The question burst from her before she could stop it. Owen looked thoughtful. "Because it's the right thing to do, because those boys deserve a safe home, because you're working yourself to the bone trying to do everything alone." Harmony studied his face, searching for hidden motives. "People will talk. People already talk." A hint of a smile played at his lips. "Let them, I've never much cared for gossip. I can't pay you, I'm not asking for payment." Owen's blue eyes held her steadily. "Judge Hollister is paying me well for the horsebreaking. Consider this neighborly assistance." Harmony thought of all the tasks she'd been putting off, unable to manage them alone. The practical side of her new accepting help made sense, but pride and caution made her hesitate. "I'll think about it," she finally said. Owen nodded, accepting her non-answer with grace. "That's fair. The offer stands whenever you're ready." He glanced toward the boys, who were watching them intently from beneath the oak tree. "Those are good boys you're raising, Harmony, strong in ways that matter." Something warm unfurled in her chest at his sincere praise of her children. "Thank you." As Owen mounted his horse to leave, Thomas and Samuel ran back to her side, waving enthusiastically as he rode away. "Is Mr. Reed coming to help us, Mama?" Thomas asked hopefully. "Perhaps," Harmony replied, watching Owen's retreating figure. "We'll see." 3 days later, Harmony found herself in town with an empty wagon and a problem. The feed she'd ordered from Pickens's store was twice the price he'd quoted her the previous week. "Supply and demand, Mrs. Tucker," Pickens said with a smirk. "Prices go up." "They don't double overnight," Harmony argued, knowing full well he was gouging her because he could. Without the feed, her milk cow and chickens would suffer, and she couldn't afford to go to the next town over. "Take it or leave it," Pickens said dismissively, turning to another customer. Harmony stood there, calculating her meager funds and trying to decide which necessities she could forego this month when a shadow fell across the counter. "Problem here," Owen Reed asked, his tone conversational but his eyes sharp. Pickens's demeanor changed instantly. No problem at all, Reed. Just explaining market forces to the lady. Is that so? Owen turned to Harmony. Mrs. Tucker. Harmony hesitated, not wanting to appear helpless but also desperate for the feed. Mr. Pickens has informed me that the price of feed has doubled since last week. Owen nodded thoughtfully. Interesting, because I just bought feed from Carson's store in Riverton yesterday for the same price as always. He fixed Pickens with a steady gaze. Funny how market forces work differently just 20 miles away. The storekeeper flushed. Carson doesn't know his business then. Or someone here is taking advantage, Owen suggested mildly. Either way, I'd hate to have to tell Judge Hollister about such unusual pricing. He buys a lot of supplies for his ranch, after all. The mention of the judge, one of Pickens's biggest customers, had an immediate effect. There might have been a mistake in my calculations, Pickens muttered, adjusting his spectacles. Let me reconsider. Within minutes, Harmony had her feed at the original price and Owen was helping her load it into her wagon. You didn't have to do that, she said quietly as they finished. No, but I wanted to. Owen secured the last sack. Man's been overcharging half the town for years, from what I hear. Harmony brushed dust from her skirts. Well, thank you again. Owen leaned against her wagon, studying her face. You're not very good at accepting help, are you? The direct observation startled a laugh from her. I suppose not. Life hasn't given me much practice. Fair enough, Owen straightened. About that fence and roof. Harmony sighed, recognizing defeat when she saw it. Sunday afternoon, the boys and I will be home from church by 1 o'clock. Owen's smile was like sunshine breaking through clouds. I'll be there. True to his word, Owen arrived at Harmony's homestead that Sunday with tools and materials loaded in a borrowed wagon. To her surprise, he'd also brought apple pie from Mrs. Holloway's boarding house. Thought we might need sustenance for the work ahead, he explained as Thomas and Samuel circled excitedly, examining the tools. The afternoon passed in a blur of activity. Owen tackled the loose shingles on the roof while Harmony and the boys cleared brush along the fence line. When it came time to repair the actual fencing, Owen patiently showed Thomas how to hold the nails and Samuel how to pass tools. My pa taught me ranch work when I was about your age, Owen told Thomas as they worked. Said a man needs to know how to fix what's broken and maintain what works. Did you live on a big ranch? Thomas asked, eyes wide with curiosity. Started on a small place like this in Nebraska. My folks worked hard, saved every penny. Owen hammered a nail with precise strokes. Eventually built it up to something respectable, taught me the value of persistence. What happened to their ranch? Harmony found herself asking as she brought them water. A shadow crossed Owen's face. Lost it during the war. My father and older brother both enlisted. Neither came home. My mother couldn't keep it going alone, and there was no one to help her. He paused, then added quietly, That's why I understand your situation better than most might, Mrs. Tucker. The personal revelation hung in the air between them, creating a new understanding. Harmony saw Owen in a different light, not just a kind stranger, but a man who truly comprehended her struggles. What happened to your mother? She asked gently. She's in California now, remarried to a decent man. They have a small orchard. Owen smiled slightly. She writes every month. Keeps asking when I'm going to settle down and stop wandering like a tumbleweed. And what do you tell her? Harmony found herself unexpectedly interested in his answer. Owen met her gaze directly. That I'll know the right place when I find it. Something electric passed between them, a moment of connection that left Harmony feeling breathless. She broke eye contact first, turning to call the boys for pie. As they sat on the porch eating Mrs. Holloway's apple pie, Harmony observed Owen with her sons. He listened to their chatter with genuine interest, answering Thomas's endless questions about horses and ranch work with patience. When Samuel shyly showed him a bird's feather he'd found, Owen examined it with exaggerated care, pronouncing it a fine specimen indeed. The scene was so domestic, so natural that it created an ache in Harmony's chest. This was what her boys had missed: a man's influence, a father figure who treated them with respect and kindness. Mr. Reed, Samuel asked, his small face serious, do you like living all alone? Owen looked surprised by the question. Well, I've gotten used to it, I suppose. Don't you get scared at night? Samuel persisted. "I get scared sometimes, but Thomas sleeps in my room and that helps." "Samuel," Harmony admonished gently. "It's all right," Owen assured her before addressing Samuel. "Truth is, everyone gets scared sometimes. Being brave isn't about never feeling fear, it's about doing what needs doing anyway." Samuel considered this profound wisdom, nodding slowly. "Like Mama. She gets scared, but she still takes care of us." Owen's gaze flickered to Harmony, warm with admiration. "Your Mama is one of the bravest people I've met." The sincere compliment brought color to Harmony's cheeks. "I think we've taken enough of Mr. Reed's time for one day, boys. Let's help clean up." As the sun began to set, Owen packed his tools while Harmony wrapped up the remaining pie for him to take home. "I can't thank you enough," she said as they stood by his wagon. The boys had run off to complete their evening chores, leaving the adults alone for the first time all day. "No need for thanks. I enjoyed the company." Owen took his hat off, running a hand through his dark hair. "I was thinking, Judge Hollister mentioned needing help with his vegetable garden. His wife's health isn't good and he's too busy with court matters. He'd pay well for someone to tend it a few mornings a week." Harmony's pride warred with practicality. "Are you offering me charity disguised as work, Mr. Reed?" "I wouldn't dare," Owen replied with a hint of a smile. "The judge's wife is particular about her vegetables. He needs someone reliable and hardworking. I simply thought of you." Harmony considered the offer. Extra income would help immensely, and garden work was something she knew well. "I'd need to bring the boys. The judge has grandchildren about their age who visit often. He mentioned they might enjoy some companions." It was too perfect, making Harmony suspicious. "And you just happened to discuss this with him?" Owen's expression turned serious. "Harmony, I won't pretend I haven't noticed your situation, but I'm not offering pity, just possibilities. You can take them or leave them." His honesty disarmed her. "I'll speak with Judge Hollister tomorrow." "Good." Owen put his hat back on and climbed into the wagon. "I'll be back next Sunday to finish the roof, if that's acceptable." "It is," Harmony found herself saying, "and perhaps you'd stay for supper afterward. The boys would like that." The invitation surprised them both. Owen's face lit up with a smile that transformed his features from handsome to breathtaking. "I'd be honored." As he drove away, Harmony wrapped her arms around herself, unsure of what had just happened, but certain that something had shifted between them, something that both thrilled and terrified her. Over the next 2 months, Owen's Sunday visits became a regular fixture in their lives. He would arrive after church, work on whatever needed fixing around the homestead, and stay for supper. The boys looked forward to these visits with unbridled enthusiasm, and Harmony found herself counting the days as well, though she tried to hide it. Judge Hollister's garden work proved to be a blessing. The judge and his wife had taken an immediate liking to Thomas and Samuel, often inviting them to play with their visiting grandchildren while Harmony worked. The extra income allowed her to buy fabric for new clothes and even put a small amount aside for emergencies. Life was improving, but the town's attitude toward her and her children remained largely unchanged. The whispers still followed them in church, and several families still pulled their children away when Thomas or Samuel approached. The cruelty came to a head one hot June afternoon in town. Harmony had left the boys briefly with Mrs. Holloway while she collected mail at the post office. When she returned, she found Samuel crying and Thomas standing rigid with fury. "What happened?" she demanded, gathering Samuel into her arms. "Billy Jenkins said we're bastards and that's why we don't have a pa," Thomas reported, his small hands clenched into fists. "He said nobody wants us 'cause we're born wrong." Mrs. Holloway looked distressed. "I stepped inside for just a moment to get lemonade. When I came back, Billy and his friends were taunting them." Harmony's heart broke as she felt Samuel's tears soak through her dress. "Where's Billy now?" "His mother took him home after I gave her a piece of my mind," Mrs. Holloway huffed. "Though Frank Jenkins should take a switch to that boy if you ask me." Harmony thanked the older woman and led her sons toward their wagon, trying to soothe them while fighting back her own tears of frustration and anger. They were halfway down the street when Owen emerged from the gunsmith's shop. One look at their faces told him something was wrong. "Harmony, boys." "What happened?" Before she could answer, Thomas blurted out, "Why do people call us bastards, Mr. Reed? What does it mean?" Owen's expression darkened dangerously. "Who said that to you?" Billy Jenkins and his friends, Thomas answered. "They said we don't belong to anybody." Owen knelt down to eye level with the boys, his face serious. "Listen to me, both of you. There's nothing wrong with you, nothing at all. You belong to your mother who loves you more than anything in this world, and there are others who care about you too." "But we don't have a pa," Samuel said in a small voice. "Everyone else has one." Owen glanced up at Harmony, something unreadable in his expression. "May I speak with you privately for a moment?" Confused, Harmony nodded. "Boys, wait by the wagon, I'll be right there." Owen led her a few paces away, removing his hat as he gathered his thoughts. "Harmony, I've been meaning to speak with you about something, but I was waiting for the right time. This isn't how I planned it, but—" "What is it?" Harmony asked, concern growing at his uncharacteristic hesitation. Owen took a deep breath. "I've grown very fond of you and your boys these past months, more than fond if I'm being honest." Harmony's heart began to race as she realized where this conversation was heading. "I know you've had reason to distrust men's intentions," Owen continued. "And I know you value your independence, but I'd like to court you properly with the hope that someday you might consider becoming my wife." Though she'd sensed his growing affection, the direct proposal still stunned her. "Owen, you don't need to answer now," he said quickly. "I understand this is sudden, but I want you to know my intentions are honorable and they extend to Thomas and Samuel as well." Harmony struggled to find words. "The boys are part of any consideration, you need to understand that." "I do understand." Owen's blue eyes held nothing but sincerity. "Those boys are remarkable, Harmony. They're smart and kind despite everything they've faced. I'd be proud to be part of their lives." Tears threatened at his words, so different from the judgment they usually received. "People would talk. They'd say you only married me out of pity." "Let them talk." Owen's voice hardened. "I've never made decisions based on others' opinions, and I don't intend to start now." A commotion from the direction of the wagon drew their attention. Frank Jenkins had approached Thomas and Samuel and appeared to be berating them. Even from a distance, they could hear his raised voice. Owen was moving before Harmony could react, his long strides eating up the distance between them and the wagon. She hurried after him, fear and anger propelling her forward. "Should keep your bastard brats under control," Jenkins was saying as they approached. "My boy came home crying because this one tried to hit him." He pointed accusingly at Thomas. "I did not," Thomas protested. "He pushed Samuel and called us names, mister." "Jenkins," Harmony began, trying to keep her voice level, "your son and his friends were taunting my children about not having a father. They're the ones who, maybe if you'd behaved like a proper woman, they would have a father," Jenkins interrupted crudely. Owen stepped between them, his voice dangerously quiet. "You'll apologize to Mrs. Tucker and her children right now," Jenkins sneered. "Or what, Reed? Everyone knows you've been sniffing around her doorstep. Found yourself a ready-made family, have you, taking another man's leavings?" The street had gone silent as people stopped to watch the confrontation. Harmony felt sick with humiliation, not for herself, but for her innocent sons who were being forced to witness such ugliness. "Thomas, Samuel," Owen said without taking his eyes off Jenkins, "I want you to take your mother to the wagon and wait for me there." "But Mr. Reed," Thomas started. "Now, please," Owen insisted, his tone brooking no argument. Harmony gathered her sons and moved toward the wagon, her legs shaking. Behind her, she could hear Owen's voice, low and intense. "Those boys have done nothing to deserve your cruelty or your sons. They're children, Jenkins, innocent children. They're bastards," Jenkins spat. "And everyone knows it." "Not anymore," Owen's voice rang out clearly across the street. "They carry my name now." Harmony froze, turning slowly to see Owen standing tall and resolute before Jenkins. "What did you say?" Jenkins asked, clearly taken aback. "I said they carry my name now," Owen repeated firmly. "I've asked Mrs. Tucker to marry me, and those boys will be my sons in every way that matters." A murmur ran through the gathered crowd. Harmony felt as though the ground had shifted beneath her feet. Owen had just publicly declared his intentions, effectively shielding her and her children from further insult. Jenkins looked from Owen to Harmony and back again, his bravado deflating. "Well, congratulations, I suppose," he muttered, backing away. Owen turned to face Harmony across the dusty street, his expression asking a silent question. In that moment, Looking at this man who had stood up for her children without hesitation, who had offered them protection and respect, Harmony knew her answer. She nodded once, a small but definite movement. Owen's face broke into a radiant smile that made her heart skip. He crossed to where she stood with the boys and took her hand in his. "I believe we have some things to discuss," he said softly. "We do indeed," she agreed, feeling suddenly lighter than she had in years. Thomas tugged at Owen's sleeve. "Mr. Reed, what did you mean about us carrying your name?" Owen knelt down once more, looking seriously at both boys. "Well, if your mother agrees, I'd like to marry her." "And that would make me your pa if you'd want that." Samuel's eyes widened. "Really, forever, forever," Owen confirmed. "What do you think about that?" Thomas looked skeptical. "Would we have to call you pa right away?" Owen chuckled. "You can call me Owen until you're ready for anything else." "Would you live with us?" Samuel asked. "I would. We'd be a family." The boys exchanged a look, having one of those silent conversations that siblings sometimes share. Then Thomas turned back to Owen. "I think that would be all right," he said with the gravity of someone making a momentous decision. Owen's smile was tender as he stood. "I'm glad to hear it." As they climbed into the wagon together, Harmony was acutely aware of the stairs following them. But for the first time, she didn't feel shame or fear, only a cautious hope blooming in her chest. That evening, after the boys were asleep, Harmony and Owen sat on her porch under a sky full of stars, discussing their future. "I want you to be certain," Owen said. "What I did today put you in a difficult position, and I apologize for that. If you need time, I don't," Harmony interrupted, surprising herself with her certainty. "What you did today. No one has ever stood up for my children that way. No one has ever seen their worth so clearly." "They're easy to love," Owen said simply. "As are you." The word hung between them, neither having used it before. Harmony felt her cheeks warm. "Owen, there's something you should know before we go any further." He waited patiently as she gathered her courage, the boy's father. "He was the son of a wealthy rancher. He promised me marriage, then left when I told him I was expecting Thomas. He returned briefly a year later with more promises, resulting in Samuel. The shame of those days still stung, but she forced herself to continue. His name was Henry Blackwood. His family owns the largest ranch in the next county." Owen's expression remained unchanged. "Have they ever acknowledged the boys?" "No. When I wrote to inform him about Thomas, Henry sent money and instructions never to contact him again. I returned the money." Pride had been all she had left then. "I never told him about Samuel. Do the boys know any of this?" Harmony shook her head. "They're too young. Jeremiah was the only father Thomas really remembers, and Samuel was just 2 when he died." Owen took her hand, his calloused palm warm against hers. "Thank you for trusting me with this. It doesn't change anything for me, Harmony. The past is past." Tears pricked at her eyes. "How can you be so accepting?" "Because I judge people by who they are, not by mistakes they've made or circumstances they couldn't control." Owen's thumb traced gentle circles on her hand. "You've raised 2 wonderful boys under difficult circumstances. That tells me everything I need to know about your character." Harmony looked at their joined hands, marveling at how right it felt. "When did you know that you wanted this?" Owen smiled. "Probably that first day at Pickens's store, watching you stand your ground while protecting your children. But I knew for certain the day you finally let me help with the roof. You were showing Thomas how to sort nails by size, so patient and thorough. I thought, there's a woman who does things right." The simple, honest answer touched Harmony deeply. This wasn't passion or infatuation, it was something steadier, more enduring, a recognition of shared values and compatible spirits. "I'd like a simple wedding," she said softly. "Soon." Owen's smile broadened. "How soon?" "Judge Hollister could marry us next Sunday after church, if that suits you." "Nothing would suit me better." Owen hesitated, then leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wished. When she didn't, he pressed his lips to hers in a gentle, questioning kiss. Harmony had been kissed before, but never like this, never with such tenderness and respect. She found herself responding, her hand coming up to rest against his chest where she could feel his heartbeat, strong and steady like the man himself. When they parted, Owen rested his forehead against hers. "I'll be a good husband to you, Harmony, and a good father to your boys. That's my promise." "I believe you," she whispered, and realized she truly did. The week before the wedding passed in a whirlwind of preparation and anticipation. News of their engagement spread quickly through Redemption Creek, generating reactions that ranged from genuine happiness to scandalous speculation. Harmony found she cared less about the gossip than she once had, too focused on the future to dwell on others' opinions. Owen moved his belongings to the old bunkhouse on Harmony's property, insisting on maintaining propriety until they were properly wed. The boys found this arrangement fascinating and took to visiting him there, returning with tales of Owen's adventures breaking horses and driving cattle. On the Saturday before the wedding, Owen took Thomas and Samuel fishing at the creek that gave the town its name. Harmony used the time alone to finish sewing her wedding dress, a simple blue gown that matched her eyes, made from fabric Mrs. Holloway had insisted on giving her as a wedding present. When the boys returned, sunburned and excited, they carried not only a string of trout for supper but also a small wooden box. "Owen said to give you this," Thomas announced importantly, placing the box in her hands. "He said it's a wedding present, but you should have it today." Curious, Harmony opened the box to find a delicate silver locket nestled inside. When she pressed the tiny clasp, it opened to reveal two small locks of hair, one dark like Thomas's, one lighter like Samuel's, arranged in a figure-8 pattern. "He asked for our hair yesterday," Samuel explained. "Said it was for something special." Tears blurred Harmony's vision as she fastened the locket around her neck. The thoughtful gift spoke volumes about the man. She was marrying a man who understood that her children were her heart. That evening, after the boys were asleep, Harmony slipped outside to the bunkhouse. Owen looked surprised when he opened the door to her knock. "Harmony, is everything all right?" Wordlessly, she touched the locket at her throat, then rose on tiptoe to kiss him with all the emotion she couldn't yet put into words. Owen's arms came around her, strong and secure, as he returned her kiss with equal fervor. When they finally parted, both breathless, Owen rested his forehead against hers. "I take it you like the locket, it's perfect," she whispered. "You're perfect." Owen chuckled softly. "Far from it, but I'm trying my best to be worthy of you and those boys. You already are." Harmony stepped back reluctantly. "I should go back before the boys wake." Owen nodded, though his eyes still smoldered with the heat of their kiss. "Tomorrow," he said, the single word a promise. "Tomorrow," she agreed, and turned toward home with a lightness in her step that had been absent for far too long. Sunday dawned clear and bright, as if the heavens themselves approved of the union about to take place. After church service, a small gathering assembled in Judge Hollister's garden for the ceremony. Mrs. Holloway had insisted on providing refreshments, and several of the judge's friends attended, along with a few townspeople who had always been kind to Harmony. Owen stood tall and handsome in a new shirt and his best trousers, his dark hair neatly combed, his face freshly shaved. Beside him, Thomas and Samuel fidgeted in their Sunday best, their excitement barely contained. When Harmony appeared in her blue dress, a simple bouquet of wildflowers in her hands, Owen's face transformed with such naked adoration that several women sighed audibly. The boys beamed with pride as their mother joined them before the judge. "Dearly beloved," Judge Hollister began, "we are gathered here today to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony." The ceremony was brief but meaningful. When the time came for vows, Owen had surprised her by writing his own. "Harmony," he said, his voice strong and clear, "I take you as my wife, promising to cherish and respect you all the days of my life. I vow to be a partner you can rely on, a shoulder you can lean on, and a heart that will always be true to yours." He glanced at Thomas and Samuel, including them in his next words. "I promise to help build a home filled with love, laughter, and security for our family. This is my solemn vow." Harmony, moved beyond words, could barely get through the traditional vows the judge had provided for her. When Owen slipped a simple gold band onto her finger, another surprise she hadn't expected, it felt right, as if her hand had been waiting for that symbol all along. "By the power vested in me," Judge Hollister proclaimed, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Owen's kiss was gentle and reverent, mindful of their audience but still conveying the depth of his feelings. When they turned to face their small gathering of well-wishers, Harmony was startled to see several unfamiliar faces at the back of the garden. "Who are they?" she whispered to Owen. Some of the hands from Judge Hollister's ranch, he explained. They asked if they could come. Seems they've taken a liking to me. It was a testament to the man he was, Harmony thought, that even rough cowboys wanted to witness his happiness. The celebration that followed was modest but joyful. Mrs. Holloway had outdone herself with a small wedding cake, and someone produced a fiddle for dancing. Owen proved to be surprisingly light on his feet, spinning Harmony around the garden while the boys clapped in delight. As the afternoon waned, they bid farewell to their guests and headed home, their home now, shared fully and legally. The boys raced ahead, eager to show Owen a fort they'd been building behind the barn. "Are you happy?" Owen asked as they walked hand in hand. Harmony squeezed his fingers. "Happier than I ever thought possible." "Good," he said simply. "That's all I want." That night, after the boys were tucked in with stories and kisses, Harmony and Owen retired to her bedroom, their bedroom now. What followed was a tender discovery of each other, hesitant at first but growing in confidence as they learned what pleased and delighted. Owen was gentle and considerate, attentive to her responses in a way that made Harmony feel both cherished and desired. Afterward, lying in his arms, Harmony felt a peace she hadn't known in years. "I never thought I'd have this again," she confessed softly. "A partner, someone to share the burdens and the joys." Owen's hand traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. "I never thought I'd have it at all. I'd resigned myself to a solitary life." "What changed?" He smiled in the darkness. "I rode into a dusty little town and saw a brave woman defending her children. The rest, as they say, is history." Harmony propped herself up on one elbow to look at him. "I love you, Owen Reed. I should have said it before, but I love you." The words, once spoken, felt right and true. Owen pulled her close, his kiss conveying all the emotion words couldn't capture. "I love you too, Harmony Reed," he murmured against her lips. "You and those boys are my life now." As summer ripened into autumn, the Reed family settled into a rhythm of work and togetherness. Owen proved to be as good as his word, a devoted husband to Harmony and a patient, loving father figure to the boys. He continued breaking horses for Judge Hollister while also working to improve their homestead, building a proper barn and expanding the cabin to include another bedroom. Thomas and Samuel flourished under Owen's guidance. He taught them to ride, to fish, to mend fences, all the skills a boy needed to grow into a capable man. More importantly, he showed them through daily example what it meant to treat others with respect and kindness. The town's attitude toward them shifted gradually. Owen's steady presence and obvious devotion to his new family earned respect, and by extension, that respect began to include Harmony and the boys. There were still a few who clung to old judgments, but their voices grew less powerful as time passed. One crisp October afternoon, Harmony was hanging laundry when she spotted a cloud of dust approaching from the direction of town. As the rider drew closer, she recognized Sheriff Cooper and tensed instinctively. Though the sheriff had always been civil, his arrival alone could mean trouble. "Afternoon, Mrs. Reed," Cooper called as he dismounted. "Is your husband around?" "He's in the north pasture with the boys," Harmony replied, wiping her hands on her apron. "Is something wrong, Sheriff?" Cooper shifted uncomfortably. "Got some visitors in town asking after him. Thought he should know." Before Harmony could inquire further, Owen appeared from the direction of the pasture, Thomas and Samuel trailing behind him like ducklings. His expression turned serious when he spotted the sheriff. "Cooper," he greeted the lawman. "What brings you out this way?" "Henry Blackwood and his father are at the hotel," Cooper said without preamble. "They're asking questions about you and your family." Harmony felt the blood drain from her face. Owen was at her side instantly, his arm steady around her waist. "What kind of questions?" he asked, his voice deceptively calm. "About the boys mostly," Cooper replied. "Seems they heard you married a widow with 2 sons. They're being discreet, but word gets around." Harmony glanced anxiously at Thomas and Samuel, who were watching the adults with curious expressions. "Boys, go inside and wash up for supper," she instructed, relieved when they obeyed without protest. Once they were out of earshot, she turned back to the sheriff. "What do they want?" "Didn't say exactly, but the elder Blackwood is a powerful man with political ambitions. Word is he's considering a run for territorial governor next year." Owen's jaw tightened. "And a scandal involving illegitimate grandchildren would be inconvenient." That would be my guess, Cooper agreed. Thought you should be prepared is all. We appreciate the warning, Owen said. Will you stay for coffee, Sheriff? Cooper declined politely and took his leave, leaving Harmony and Owen to process this unsettling development. They have no right, Harmony said shakily once they were alone. No right at all after all this time. No, they don't, Owen agreed, his expression grim. But men like the Blackwoods are used to taking what they want, rights be damned. What will we do if they come here? Owen's eyes met hers, steady and determined. We'll face them together. Those boys are ours, Harmony. I adopted them legally when we married, remember? They carry my name now in every way that matters. The reminder calmed her somewhat. Judge Hollister had insisted on drawing up proper adoption papers as a wedding gift, ensuring that Thomas and Samuel were legally Owen's children. I won't let them take my boys, she said fiercely. Owen pulled her close. Neither will I promise you that. They didn't have long to wait. The following morning, two riders approached their homestead, one young and fashionably dressed, the other older with the unmistakable bearing of wealth and power. Harmony recognized Henry immediately, though the 7 years since she'd last seen him had added lines to his handsome face and a touch of gray at his temples. Owen met them in the yard, his stance relaxed but alert. Harmony remained on the porch, grateful that the boys were helping Mrs. Holloway in town that morning, Mr. Blackwood. Owen greeted them without specifying which one he meant. What brings you to our home? The elder Blackwood, an imposing figure with silver hair and cold eyes, spoke first. You're Reed, I take it, the man who married Harmony Tucker? Owen Reed, yes. And it's Harmony Reed now. Henry Blackwood dismounted, his gaze finding Harmony on the porch. Hello, Harmony, it's been a long time. Harmony didn't reply, unwilling to give him the satisfaction of a response. We understand you've adopted my son's children, the elder Blackwood stated bluntly. Owen's expression remained neutral. I've adopted my wife's children, yes. Thomas and Samuel Reed are legally my sons. Those boys carry Blackwood blood, Henry finally spoke directly to Owen. They belong with their blood family. Anger flashed in Owen's eyes, though his voice remained steady. Those boys belong exactly where they are with parents who love them and have cared for them every day of their lives. We're prepared to be generous, the elder Blackwood said, as if Owen hadn't spoken. Financial compensation for the woman, of course. And assurances that the boys will receive the finest education and opportunities. The woman, Owen repeated dangerously, is my wife, and she's standing right there if you wish to address her directly. Harmony had heard enough. She descended the porch steps to stand beside Owen, drawing strength from his presence. Henry, she said coolly, you surrendered any right to my children when you sent money instead of support, when you chose your reputation over your responsibility. Henry at least had the grace to look uncomfortable. I was young and foolish, Harmony. I've regretted my actions. Have you, for 7 years? Because that's how long Thomas has been alive without any acknowledgement from you. Samuel is 5 now, and you didn't even know he existed. The elder Blackwood cleared his throat impatiently. The past is irrelevant. What matters is the future. The Blackwood name carries weight in this territory. Those boys would have advantages you could never provide. Owen stepped forward, his patience clearly wearing thin. Mr. Blackwood, with all due respect, you're trespassing on our property. My sons are not for sale or negotiation. They are happy, healthy, and loved. If you're concerned about your family's reputation, I suggest you focus on your own actions rather than disrupting innocent children's lives. You're making a mistake, the elder Blackwood warned. I have influence with judges, bankers, territorial officials, and I have the law on my side, Owen replied evenly, as well as the support of this community. Those boys are legally mine, and more importantly, they know me as the father who reads them stories, teaches them to fish, and tucks them in at night. Can either of you claim the same? The pointed question hung in the air. Henry looked away first, unable to meet Owen's steady gaze. Father, he said quietly, perhaps we should reconsider. The elder Blackwood's face flushed with anger. We'll see about that, he snapped, turning his horse. This isn't over. As they rode away, Harmony sagged against Owen, the confrontation having drained her completely. They'll be back, she whispered. Let them come, Owen said, his arm tightening around her. Some things are worth fighting for, and our family is at the top of that list. True to Owen's prediction, the Blackwoods didn't give up easily. Over the next 2 weeks, they attempted various tactics offering increasingly large sums of money, suggesting compromises where the boys would split time between families and finally, threats of legal action. Through it all, Owen and Harmony presented a united front, protecting the boys from knowledge of the brewing storm. Thomas and Samuel knew only that they had visitors sometimes, important men who talked with their parents while they played at Mrs. Holloway's. The situation came to a head when the elder Blackwood attempted to bribe Judge Hollister to invalidate Owen's adoption of the boys. The judge, incensed by the attempt to corrupt his court, not only refused but threatened to make the bribery attempt public knowledge, a move that would destroy Blackwood's political aspirations. Faced with exposure, the elder Blackwood finally relented. He arranged one final meeting at the Reed homestead, arriving with Henry and a lawyer in tow. "My client is prepared to sign a legal document relinquishing all claims to the children known as Thomas and Samuel Reed," the lawyer announced formally. "In exchange, he requires only your discretion regarding this matter." Owen looked to Harmony, letting her make the final decision. She studied Henry's face, searching for any sign that he truly cared about the children he'd helped create. Finding none, she nodded. "We have no interest in damaging your reputation, Mr. Blackwood," she said to the elder man. "Our only concern has always been our children's happiness and security." The papers were signed without further discussion. Before they left, Henry approached Harmony one last time. "Are they good boys?" He asked quietly, something like pity stirred in Harmony's heart. "The best," she replied simply. "You would have been proud to know them." Henry nodded, his expression unreadable. "Take care of them." "We always have," Owen answered for both of them, his hand steady on Harmony's shoulder. As the Blackwoods rode away for the last time, Harmony felt a chapter of her life truly close. The past no longer had power over her or her children. That evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Thomas asked the question they'd been expecting. "Who were those men who kept coming to see you and Mama?" Owen considered his answer carefully. "They were people who thought they knew what was best for our family, but they were wrong." Thomas accepted this with the simple faith of childhood. "Nobody knows our family better than we do," he declared confidently. "That's exactly right," Owen agreed, ruffling the boy's hair affectionately. Later, after the boys were asleep, Owen found Harmony standing by the window, gazing at the stars. "Penny, for your thoughts," he said softly, coming to stand behind her. "I was thinking about the day we met," she replied, leaning back against his chest. "How differently things might have turned out if you hadn't ridden into town that day." Owen's arms encircled her waist. "I believe some things are meant to be, Harmony. I was always heading toward you and those boys, even when I didn't know it." Harmony turned in his embrace to face him. "I have something to tell you." The seriousness in her tone made Owen's brow furrow with concern. "What is it, Doctor?" "Miller confirmed it today," she said, a smile breaking across her face. "We're going to have a baby in the spring." Joy transformed Owen's expression. He lifted her off her feet in an exuberant embrace, spinning her around before setting her gently back down. "A baby," he repeated in wonder. "Our baby. The boys are going to be so excited to be big brothers," Harmony said, laughing at his enthusiasm. Owen placed a gentle hand on her still flat stomach. "Thank you," he whispered, "for this life we're building together." "Thank you," she countered, "for giving us all your name, your heart, and your protection when we needed it most." Their lips met in a kiss that tasted of promise and possibility, of a future bright with shared love and purpose. The following April, as wildflowers once again carpeted the Wyoming prairie, Harmony gave birth to a daughter they named Hope Elizabeth Reed. Thomas and Samuel approached their role as big brothers with solemn responsibility, proudly showing off their baby sister to anyone who would look. By then, the Reed family had become respected members of the Redemption Creek community. Owen's skill with horses had grown into a successful breeding operation, and Harmony's garden produce was sought after at the local market. Even Elmer Pickens had come around, offering the boys peppermint sticks when they accompanied their parents to the store. On Hope's christening day, the entire town turned out to celebrate. As Harmony watched Owen showing off their daughter, his face alight with pride, She marveled at how completely her life had transformed in just 2 years. "Mama, can we go fishing with Owen after the party?" Thomas asked, appearing at her side. He still called Owen by his given name sometimes, though Pa had begun to slip into his vocabulary with increasing frequency. "If he's not too tired," Harmony replied, smoothing her son's unruly hair. "He won't be tired," Thomas said confidently. "He promised to teach us to catch the big trout that lives under the fallen tree." Samuel nodded eagerly beside his brother. "He says it's as long as my arm." Harmony smiled at their excitement. "Well, if he promised, then I'm sure he'll keep his word." "Owen always keeps his promises," Samuel stated with the absolute certainty of childhood. Looking across the churchyard to where her husband stood cradling their infant daughter, Harmony felt a rush of gratitude so intense it brought tears to her eyes. Yes, Owen Reed was a man who kept his promises to love, to protect, to cherish the family that had become his own not by blood but by choice. "Yes," she agreed softly. "Yes, he does." That night, with Hope sleeping peacefully in her cradle and the boys exhausted from their fishing expedition, Harmony and Owen sat on their porch swing, watching fireflies dance in the gathering dusk. "Do you ever think about how different our lives might have been?" Harmony asked, her head resting comfortably on his shoulder. Owen considered the question. "Sometimes, but then I look at what we have and I can't imagine wanting anything else, even with all the challenges, especially with the challenges." Owen pressed a kiss to her temple. "The best things in life are worth fighting for, Harmony. You and our children, you're the best things that ever happened to me." As the stars appeared one by one in the darkening sky, Harmony Reed counted her blessings. 3 beautiful children, a home filled with love, and a husband who had given her not just his name but his whole heart. The past with all its pain had been transformed into a present rich with joy and a future bright with promise. "I love you, Owen Reed," she whispered. "And I love you, Harmony Reed," he replied, his voice carrying all the certainty of a man who had found his true north. "Today, tomorrow, and all the days to come." In the distance, a coyote called to its mate, and somewhere closer, an owl hooted softly. The night sounds of the Wyoming wilderness formed a lullaby around the little homestead where 2 people who had once been alone had found in each other the completeness they'd both been seeking. And in the hearts of the children sleeping soundly inside Thomas, Samuel, and Baby hoped the legacy of that love would live on, creating ripples that would extend far beyond what either of them could imagine. For in the end, it wasn't blood that made a family, but love freely given and gratefully received. Owen had known that truth from the moment he declared, "They carry my name now." And in that declaration, he had changed not just the children's destiny, but his own.